Story 1. Some time ago, a new family moved in next door to ours, and they had a son who was quite disturbed. He had a fascination with slasher movies and took pleasure in tormenting stray animals, a real oddball. At 21 years old, he took an uncomfortable interest in my 11-year-old daughter, often trying to engage her in conversation or speaking to her over the fence while she played in the backyard. However, things escalated when he called our house specifically to speak with her. I lost my temper and confronted him, leading his parents to warn him to stay away from her, under threat of severe consequences. That's when things took a strange turn. My daughter, always imaginative and prone to paranoia, began insisting that there was something living in her closet at night, but it vanished during the day. Initially dismissing it as childhood imagination, we didn't pay much attention. However, a few weeks later, while my wife and daughter were away for a girls' night, I stayed up watching movies downstairs until around 2 a.m. Then, I received a call from my neighbor, the father of the unsettling son, claiming that they had noticed our lights on and assumed I was awake. He informed me that their son was missing, as they had found his room empty with the door open, which was unusual. They needed help searching for him. Despite being awakened by the call, I was alarmed when they mentioned seeing me walking around upstairs and the lights being on. I knew I had been passed out on the couch and hadn't turned on any lights. Quickly hanging up, I rushed outside to my truck to grab my shotgun, but as I did, I noticed the sheriff arriving at my neighbor's house. Panicked, I raced over and informed them that someone was in my house. From the outside, I could see the lights on in my daughter's room, and a shadow pacing back and forth inside. When the deputies entered, they found the neighbor's son hiding in my daughter's closet, admitting to enjoying watching her sleep in the moonlight. Story 2. On a Friday night, my friend came to pick me up from my house in his car, as we were running late for a football game. Engrossed in our conversation, I didn't realize I had left my phone behind until we were well into the evening. Frantically searching the car, I couldn't find it anywhere. Worried that I might have dropped it somewhere, I borrowed my friend's phone and dashed to the bathroom to call my own number, hoping someone at home would answer. After 5 rings, someone picked up, but remained silent on the other end. Assuming it was my little brother playing a prank, I called out into the phone before hanging up. Arriving home late that night, I discovered my parents were out for dinner and a concert at the park with my little brother, having left shortly after I did for the game. Confusion set in when I realized no one from my family could have answered my phone if they weren't home. A sense of dread washed over me as I felt a knot in my stomach, and just then, I heard the back door of my house open and close. Reacting swiftly, I rushed out the front door to the neighbor's house and called the police. It turned out the back door had been left unlocked, allowing someone to enter the house unnoticed. Fortunately, nothing was stolen, but the thought of a stranger possibly being inside our home while we slept sent chills down my spine. Story 3. A group of friends and I were engaged in some nighttime fishing along a river. Positioned along the shoreline with a crackling fire and casual conversation, the atmosphere suddenly shifted as everyone fell silent simultaneously, as though a switch had been flipped off. Across the river, an unsettling sensation gripped us, as if we were being watched in return. Attempting to brush off the unease with typical bravado, some in the group resorted to macho humor. However, our efforts were shattered when a horrifying sound erupted from the opposite shore, freezing us in our tracks. It was a sound unlike anything I had ever heard, sending shivers down my spine and causing every hair on my body to stand on end. It resembled the scream of a feral creature devoid of language, a high-pitched, blood-curdling cry that pierced the night. Paralyzed with fear, none of us moved or spoke, our gaze fixed across the river. Then, as suddenly as it began, a second scream echoed, even more forceful than the first. Reacting instinctively, several of us sprinted to our trucks parked nearby, retrieving firearms for protection. Returning to our spot, we sat in tense silence, eyes trained on the opposite shore, the glow of the fire reflecting off the rocks. We waited, anticipating another scream or any movement on the other side of the river. Eventually, a third scream pierced the air, but this time, it originated from the bushes just a yard away from us. In a panic, we fled the scene, leaving most of our belongings behind. Even as we reached our trucks, the haunting sound echoed once more from beyond the tree line, prompting us to speed away without ever discovering the source of the chilling screams. Story 4. While doing my laundry one day, a light in my basement went out. The laundry room is separated from the rest of the basement by a wall with a door, so to reach the upstairs, one must exit the laundry room and traverse the darkened area. Although the light that blew was in the other part of the basement, leaving the laundry room dimly lit, it was still quite dark. After completing my laundry, I dreaded walking through the dark basement. As I made my way through, I was startled by a loud cackle behind me, reminiscent of a witch's laugh amplified by years of smoking. Without hesitation, I sprinted for the stairs. Later, when my father returned home, I had the bulb replaced. I've kept the incident to myself ever since, and the eerie cackle has not recurred. Story 5. This incident occurred to a friend of mine, whom we'll refer to as Nancy, who shared the story with me around 2 years ago. Nancy, a teacher in her early 30s living in Canada, found herself in a peculiar situation one evening. While tutoring a high school student late into the night, the buses stopped running, leaving the boy stranded far from home. Reluctantly, Nancy agreed to let him stay overnight on her floor until the buses resumed in the morning. As they settled in for the night in her one-room apartment, around 3 a.m., the boy woke Nancy up, claiming to be hungry and suggesting they go out for food. Despite Nancy's disbelief at the odd hour, the boy persisted, insisting on food from a nearby 24-hour restaurant. After much persuasion, Nancy accompanied him. However, once on the street, the boy confessed that he wasn't hungry and had only suggested leaving because he had seen a homeless man sleeping under Nancy's bed. Shocked, they contacted the police, who discovered that the homeless man had been secretly living in Nancy's apartment, sleeping under her bed, for 2 months. The boy had spotted him because he had been lying on the floor with a clear view under the bed. Story 6. I was taking a shortcut from work, driving along a 2-lane road by myself in the afternoon. As I ascended a mountain range, I found myself driving north through a canyon bordered by tall grass on both sides. In the distance, I spotted something obstructing the road, a BMW car positioned sideways, blocking both lanes, with a suitcase open and clothes strewn about. 2 figures lay face down on the road, a man and a woman. Sensing danger, my instincts kicked in. I stopped about 80 feet away, feeling a chill down my spine. Being a soldier, I reached for a pistol stashed under my seat. The scene seemed too perfect, almost staged, and my gut told me something was amiss. As I surveyed the area, I noticed a pattern. Proceeding cautiously, I slowed down to catch my breath, feeling the tension rise. Glancing in my rearview mirror, I saw the 2 figures rise to their knees, and suddenly, a group of around 20 people emerged from the tall grass on both sides of the road near the car. In that moment, instinct took over, and I floored the gas pedal until I had to slow down. I'll never know what might have transpired had I approached the bodies or stopped closer to them.